The Israeli elections are today, and I don't care. I want to talk a little bit about how should I, as an American Jew, look at the Israeli elections. And I'm talking to myself because this is a Musar schmooze to myself. Musar is Musar. Musar means rebuke. It's often used to refer to ethical teachings in Judaism. And I'm not talking to anybody but myself. Maybe someone else is listening once this is posted up on YouTube, but for now I'm talking to myself what I need to hear. I'm an American, not an Israeli. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Probably the only real valid criticism that I have against Donald Trump is when he speaks to Jewish audiences and he'll refer to Benjamin Netanyahu as your prime minister. He's speaking to Americans. And I'll say it before and I'll say it again, Mr. President, you're my president. I have nothing to do with Benjamin Netanyahu. I'm not an Israeli. I'm an American, and that's it. And really, other than whatever this has to do with American interests, I should have no opinion about what goes on in Israel. It's none of my business. And this isn't a Satmar idea. Rabbi Joseph B. Soloveitchik from Yeshiva University was the head of the religious Zionists in America, of the Mizrahi. He was the president of Mizrahi in America. And he said that American Jews should not be, really should have no opinion about Israeli politics. We're Americans, and that's it. You know? And that's it. We're Americans. We're not Israelis. I don't know what else to say. Meaning to say it's none of our business if it's Netanyahu or who's the other guy, Gantz. Doesn't matter. None of our business. And the only reason why I might be upset if Netanyahu loses is because he's a good friend with President Trump. And that's the only thing. But other than that, it's none of our business. We're Americans, we're Israelis. Now, I want to also give a little insight into what goes on in Jerusalem, in the Holy Land, among the pious Jewish communities. You have two basic views among the ultra-Orthodox communities in the Holy Land vis-a-vis Israeli politics. One is to say we have to engage in damage control, and so we send in our politicians to represent us and so forth. It's interesting because I saw on Twitter someone claiming to represent Satmar, but there's no official representation of Satmar on Twitter. They tweeted a commercial from Israel basically saying that the ultra-Orthodox parties in Israel are selling out the ultra-Orthodox people and not really representing them, and they are. Now the thing is that certainly is true and certainly is part of the Satmar belief, but the question is, what alternative is being suggested? I just simply asked one question. I didn't get an answer. Who made this commercial? And it seems obvious to me that whoever made this commercial, his goals are not the goals, or their goals are not the goals of Satmar here. Meaning the goals of Satmar is that nobody should vote and that they should boycott the elections. And it would seem that whoever's making this video is saying vote for somebody else. It's not clear who they want someone to vote for. All this talk that somehow Netanyahu is some kind of a white supremacist, that's nonsense. That's not the issue here. And to hear someone like Ilan Omar say that, he's the problem, and that's also ridiculous. All of this stuff is nonsense. Now, everybody has to follow their own rabbis. I'm not saying that, the Ger Hasidim go to vote, they're doing something wrong. Or the Belzer Hasidim, when they go to vote, they're doing something wrong. They're following their rabbi. And however, it's not a clear halachic issue that's, decided by Chazal. It's not like that we have, like tefillin has 4 compartments, that thou shalt not vote. I think the Brisker Rav said it's not as big of a sin to vote as the Satmar Rav says, and it's not as big of a mitzvah as Rav Aaron Kotler said. And I think that's a good perspective, but I want to bring out a perspective that really impressed me the most. I was thinking I should have eaten breakfast before I started making a video. I see that's correct, because I'm not really doing such a good job right now. But I remember, I worked for a Hasidic Rebbe as a gabbai. Someone doesn't have a huge community, but not a small community either. And he's growing, and he's successful, and he's a good Rebbe. And he said, he explained something to me that I think is very important and quite beautiful. And when people ask him, not who to vote for even, but should I vote? His answer is always, what does your father do? If your father votes, you should vote. If your father doesn't vote, you shouldn't vote. And he said he himself, he votes, this Rebbe, because, someone was upset at him, one of the Chassidim, what he's saying. So you're telling this person that he's allowed to not vote? He said, yeah, and it's, first of all, something very important there. There are things that are more important than politics. And family is one of those things. Also, there are more things that are more important than the Rebbe and family. It's one of those things. That's certainly the Satmar approach in general when it comes to various customs. People are going to do what their parents did as opposed to just aping the Rebbe. And the Rebbe didn't want anybody to just ape him. So that's an important perspective. I think people should think about what that means for a Hasidic Rebbe in Yerushalayim to tell his Hasidim, if your father votes, you should vote, and if your father doesn't vote, you shouldn't vote. Now, what's the idea about not voting? Because it makes a lot of sense. When you don't vote, you're pretty much letting your opponent win. Well, first of all, is that I'll explain it like this as far as why I do vote in America and why I personally would not vote in Israel. Why I do vote in America. Because let's start off why I would not vote in Israel. I really should eat breakfast before I do this. Why would I not vote in Israel? The answer is as follows. The reason why I would not vote in Israel is because you are directly responsible for all the sins that happen in the Knesset. And the Knesset is an evil and sinful place. And by voting, you're becoming a partner in that. In America, it's not quite the same. In America, it makes sense to vote for lesser of two evils because, first of all, we don't have direct elections, really. We have the Electoral College, so we don't bear responsibility for everything that the person we vote for does. That's only when it comes to the president, though. And in Israel, it's about coalition building. So when it comes to the legislature, it is about a greater whole, and so there is a shared responsibility in Israel, whereas in America, you are only voting for your representative in Congress. And so then again, it's worthwhile there, and his or her power is only reflecting the greater whole. And once again, so there's a reason why we could say that it's justifiable and wise and meritorious to vote for the lesser of two evils in America. Now in Israel, I understand in Israel you're not voting for individuals, you're voting for parties. That's another part of the equation there that people should be aware of, and so therefore it's also and whereas in America you're voting for candidates, not for parties. Parties are more or less like voting blocks, but it doesn't really reflect, each individual is not a party hack the way it is in Israel. Again, I can understand why the people who do vote, but I still feel very strongly compelled to say that in Israel, that if I lived in the Holy Land, I would prefer not to be an Israeli citizen. I would prefer to keep my American citizenship and just be there on an extended visa as an American, not as an Israeli. Also, I have total contempt for the Israeli government, and so therefore, and I believe religiously that the law of the land is the law, applies only in Gentile countries. It does not apply in Israel. And so religiously, I have no issue with being radically living in the Holy Land as an illegal alien, whereas I would feel in any other country that would be a sin. But in Israel, they have no right to have what they have, and it's the whole thing, their whole existence is sinful and heretical and evil. So that explains a little bit too. What else can we talk about here? That's pretty much, I think I explained enough. So it's not about, and the thing is and the Musar that I'm trying to tell myself is because there is a part of me that is kind of rooting for Netanyahu, and even rooting for the Haredi parties, but it shouldn't be. and I have to recognize that that's the Yetzer Hara, that's the devil, that's the evil inclination, and to fight against that, and not embrace that comes from the Sitra Achra. But not because Netanyahu isn't the lesser of two evils. I think it's still clear that Netanyahu is 100% the lesser of two evils there, and that the so-called Haredi parties who are going to coalition with him are the lesser of whatever 10, 15 evils. But they're still wrong. They're not, in my estimation, they're not doing what they're supposed to do. But I can't fault them for following the halachic opinions of their own rabbis. Say that the people who are in the Knesset and so forth, who are Jews with beards and payas, and who keep Shabbos and Kashrus, evil people. I don't believe that. I believe they're doing what they're supposed to be doing because they're following their own rabbis. And I follow a different rabbi, and that's another aspect of this that you have to find how to balance that. How to balance Ahavas Yisrael, which does, Ahavas Yisrael, love of your fellow Jew, only applies to other pious Jews, which includes the religious Zionists as well. But it says Kamocha b'Torah v'mitzvos. It only applies. It's not racial. It's not race. It's ideology. And even though we have disagreement in this certain aspects of the ideology vis-a-vis Zionism in Israel. That's new, Dollar General. Despite that, we still have to love them as fellow Jews. Now, it's not a racial thing that we have to love heretics like Ehud Barak. Although it's interesting, Ehud Barak quoted the Shalosh Shavuos recently, which is bizarre and interesting and strange. Now, and mentioning that, what exactly is the evil of Zionism is the premature obsession with eschatology which is a mental illness. It's a clear sign of mental illness. It's something, I work with mentally ill people who are obsessed with eschatology and believe that they are some kind of messianic figure. I was talking to someone 2 days ago, one of my patients, and it's fascinating that he believes he is God and the Messiah and all kinds of things, but also he says currently he's a Muslim, but he knows about Judaism and Christianity quite a bit. He's a Latino individual, American. And, an intelligent person, but severely mentally ill. But I'm wondering if there's not the spirit of Shabtai Tzvi in something like that too, which is very scary and frightening. That I pretty much sat down and had a conversation with someone like that. I don't think it's merely delusion. I think there's a spiritual component in mental illness. I think I've pretty much covered everything that I need to cover here. I hit all the points that are really important here. I'll say one more thing, because I see, an American Jew from Flatbush who I know, he's a political activist, and, he's very excited about how the ultra-Orthodox in Israel are getting out the vote, because the vast majority of the ultra-Orthodox do vote in Israel. It's only a small minority who don't, but where those tensions lie, it's a very strong thing, which I think there's a beauty in that fact that in one synagogue by one Rebbe, it doesn't matter, because if you're a Belzer Chassid, you have to vote. If you're a Gerach Chassid, you have to vote. If you're a Satmar Chassid or a Toldos Aaron Chassid, God forbid, it wouldn't cross your mind to vote. But that there are those communities that small, maybe 200 families, maybe more, but that they have the ability to say, and maybe part of it is because they're small, they want to be Big Ten to try to attract as many people. But, that could be part of it. It's the same type of thing that goes on in our synagogue, where, you have the Gabbai is an Israeli religious Zionist, and the Baal Koreh is a Satmar in the summer. And we're able to sit together and have peace. So pretty much I think I've, but there's something uncomfortable though to me with this fact that there's somebody who is an American and he's so involved in Israeli politics, and that opens us up to these claims of dual loyalty and so forth, and that feeds into that. and I think it's unnecessary. So I know this is a difficult subject to talk about, but I think it's an important one. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in, like I mentioned from the beginning, how Rabbi Soloveitchik, who was a modern Orthodox religious Zionist, said that, American Jews stay out of Israeli politics. And part of it, he was talking to a certain extent, even in the ultra-Orthodox community, where there's a major aspect of that. Now, the only thing was that what if, and meaning, I'll say like that, I guess, part of the issue is, let's say, a Jew who's an Israeli citizen asks Rav Soloveitchik, who should he vote for? He's going to say, it's none of my business, ask an Israeli rabbi. Whereas if the same Jew would ask Rav Aaron Kotler, he would say, vote for a Gouda. So I hear. That's what I can say. I hear. It's a complicated issue, and obviously, Satmar Rebbe is going to say, don't vote for anybody, Lubavitch Rebbe doesn't come into the picture here. He wasn't as big as they think. Unless you're a Lubavitcher Chassid, no one was going to ask him. And I don't know what kind of advice he gave in those situations. I don't really care. I don't really care as much what Rav Soloveitchik said as well. I see, although as much as just the fact that he had that wisdom to say it's none of our business. That there's tremendous depth in that, and that's a very important thing to remember. And if you care, so you go to Israel, I guess, and become an Israeli citizen. I don't know. It's an interesting. The whole thing is very interesting to me. I don't quite understand it. But I just needed to vent a little bit about this. I need to vent about something else. But whatever, everything, Kol B'dei Shemayim. Everything's in the hands of heaven. The trees are starting to change. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later. All right, take care. Or we could talk about something else. All right, thank you.